Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Bosch Legacy season finale. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we are concluding all storylines, well, to some extent. So first and foremost, we're picking up where the previous episode left off with Harry inside the building along with the assassin, along with Viviana and her son. Luckily, Harry was able to get to them. I love that he was able to cause that distraction by getting the elevator to keep going up, and the assassin followed it. So Harry was able to get Viviana and her son out. And looking at some security at footage that Mo was able to find, it turns out. So the first thing I thought last episode ended up being true and not last when it came to the Sloan. Sloan, buzzed in and was like, hey, I need you to open the door, because he was held at gunpoint, and then she shot him, and obviously dead and buried. And it's like, damn, that sucks. I figured as much because you couldn't get in contact with him. Like, the moment Harry tried to call him, couldn't get in contact, and was like, Sloan's already dead. He was a means to an end, and she got rid of him. Once again, sucks. He tried to do the guy was a good guy in the end, tried to do the right thing. So interestingly enough, and I thought this was fascinating, I wonder, is this going to be a main through line going forward? But they set up by showing you a scene, a flashback of Harry back in Afghanistan in 2003, who, interestingly enough, Michael Cudlitz plays a character named Edge, which interesting because obviously Madison Lentz, also from The Walking Dead, Michael Cudlitz, if you aren't aware, played Abraham in The Walking Dead. So it's like, oh, obviously they were in the show seasons apart, but still, it's just interesting to have another Walking Dead alumni like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But Harry was they're interrogating someone and they're trying to get information. But Harry isn't Edge is all about let's torture the guy if need be. I'm going to tell him all the terrible things I'm going to do to him. And if that doesn't work, I will do said things to him. But Harry is like, no, you do that. There's no guarantee torture is going to work. So obviously it sets up him going after, Crichton. His tactics about going after him, but I don't know if Harry would have followed through. If it threats are probably what Harry does best, but I don't know if he would have actually fully crossed the line in that regard. Still kind of did with the nature of everything that plays out in the episode, but it's also I'm gonna cut you some slack. It's that thing of when it's your protagonist, you don't always keep the same energy as someone that's opposing your antagonist, cutting some corners and stuff like that. But Harry ended up kidnapping the guy and threatening him. But like I said, in the past, he wasn't about the torture thing because you don't know what kind of information you're going to get. So I don't know if it was just for that, but I feel like they're setting that up to be something more going to be an even more prevalent storyline in the future or something. But ultimately, I love that guy's like, oh, I have no idea what. Just shut up, Crichton. Because Harry, you want to keep things. You want to keep yourself safe, so you don't want to tell Harry the truth because you don't know if you don't want to sell yourself out for being responsible for all this. But Harry threatens to waterboard him essentially, and it's like, all right, I can't give you the assassin, but I can point you in the right direction. So Harry has this whole setup to draw her in, and I love that Mo's got this whole get up for him. Even it's like, oh yeah, this garden gnome, it's got a camera lens to it. I call it Harry. He's like, oh, cute. And I also love, he's like, yeah, all you got to do is connect it to your Bluetooth. And Harry's staring at his phone. He's like, Bluetooth. I was like, oh, Harry. And it's like, Mo's like, don't worry, I got you. And I even love that Mo was like, no, I could, back you up. But Harry's like, no, I got this. Even calling Chandler being like, yeah, I'm just calling you ahead of time if something goes sideways with this. She was like, if it's something dangerous, don't do it. He's like, I just got to let you know. So he said from the beginning, he was prepared to kill her if need be, but he said he was going to give her an opportunity to back out of this situation, but she didn't. Because even Crichton had said that she's the type of person that will see something through. It didn't come up in the episode, but part of me was wondering in some shape or form, because Crichton had talked about it. He doesn't actually, when this assassin, you don't know names and stuff like that, so I was wondering, could that be tying into that assassin? Could she end up tying into the Afghanistan stuff from 2003, like Edge. Could she be someone that worked for Edge? Like whether he's still like, maybe he's like higher up in like government wet work and she's one of his people that they kind of, maybe it's like because Crichton's kind of a private security thing, but like what if like Edge is like got a private security thing with like military contracts and like she was one of his people or something. Like maybe that's where I was wondering, like could that be the tie-in, but they never tied into that. So maybe, like I said, maybe it's going to be a separate storyline, or maybe we will in the future find out there is a correlation there. Because ultimately, Harry does kill her. I love that it turns into a shootout, and he empties all the bullets out of his gun. She's like, "Oh, 6 bullets in their old gun, Bosch," and pow pow. And he made sure to kill her with. He's like, "Yo, you should have counted guns." Ended up killing her with Crichton's gun. So it's like, yeah, her body's dead and buried, very much like she did. Because also Harry knows, like, yeah, the moment he was like, "Don't move or you die," she immediately shot at him. So it's like, right, she wasn't going to talk. She made it clear she wasn't backing down. But she said that Crichton said that she's the type of person that won't stop until the job is done. So, but Harry buried her, and it's like, cool, Crichton, you have all the motivation to make sure her body's never found, because if it surfaces, it's not going to be good for you, because I used your gun to kill her. I'm like, yeah, stick it to him. And even Crichton had the audacity to be like, we could work with a man like you who is willing to cross the line. The moment he said, I was like, fuck you. And what does Harry say? Fuck off. I was like, yeah, perfect. I was like, don't compare us. Do you know it's still going to bother Harry? Yes, he crossed the line. Yes, we're dealing with an assassin. And yes, he's kind of crossed the line in this regard before, but still, it's not like it was, he didn't get the police involved because he's like, right, they're too slow to act in this situation, if they'll act at all. So he had to take things in his own hands. I mean, he closes up other things as well, because he goes to, I always can forget the detective's name. Is it like Gusterson or something like that? Harry went to him and gave him the evidence that pointed towards Dr. Shipman. And he's like, what do you want in return? He's like, I want you to do your fucking job. Do justice. Put the right person to kill her behind fucking bars. That's all I want from this. And so Harry's almost like, I will let you have all the glory to this. I basically gave you the first stepping stones. You basically have to push the rest of the way. He's like, you do this and you do that. You probably won't even have to change out of your coat. Won't even have to get in Shipman's face. Like, you have all the ammunition you need to bring him down. And we hear later on from Chandler that he was taken down. So it's like, cool. And he gets all the credit. It's like, yeah, just be a better, because Harry's like, be a better cop. Do the right thing. Because if you don't, I still have plenty of connections and people who I know will actually do the job. So I love that. So I'm sure he's going to get some recommendations for it. But he's the type of person, because even Bennett said that he's the type to try and work a case to, so it turns out I was wrong. I was like, for him to be so inept in this case, I was like, he had to be like getting some slice of the pie. It's like, no, he just wanted something super open and shut. That's why he was like, oh, it's got to be this person. Bam, bam, bam. And he refused to look any deeper. He stayed on Jeffrey. Even throughout all this, he never looked at anyone else until Bosch like literally put the case, like solved the case and put it in your lap for you. He did all the heavy lifting. You only had to do the bare minimum, which probably makes him happy. He's like, oh, cool, I get all the recognition and praise and I didn't have to try. But maybe this puts, a metaphorical boot up his ass now that he'll be a better cop. Like, right, I can't disparage the badge and I got to do the right thing. So maybe he won't be such a dick about things going forward, that maybe he'll actually do his job. We'll see. Maybe he'll still be coasting in the future. But if he does, Harry's going to have some words with him and just like, but we'll see how that plays out. So other story elements, there was that shooting that Vasquez and Maddie ended up getting, and they found the guy dying, and Maddie like grabbed the guy's hand, and Vasquez, and I guess maybe it's just because she's been on a job longer, she was so detached where she was like, why, what are you doing? She's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, why did she seem, but I guess it's like, right, with that job, it's almost like someone who's a doctor, you kind of have to like desensitize yourself to that to some extent. You kind of have to, like, I guess to kind of, I don't know if it's the right thing to do, like, but maybe kind of detach yourself from like, right, I'm working on someone, don't get too attached. Like, maybe it's kind of that thing, because Maddie was holding his hand and like, this is the first time she's watched someone die on the job. Like, obviously Maddie wears her heart on her sleeve. So, like, obviously, how she's been there for Pretty. But I think for some people, it's like, no, that's what you need in a cop. Is someone that is going to have their heart on her sleeve and is going to try and do the right thing, who's going to be there for the victims in those regards. So, and I think, like, seeing Maddie act like that, because I guess maybe Vasquez herself is kind of a little desensitized. Most cops wouldn't feel that way. So, but Maddie says the line of, no one deserves to die alone. And I guess that's a byproduct of, like, right, her mom circumstances too. Like, maybe her mom's death, like, hits that a even home, like, harder home for her, because obviously she couldn't be there when her mom died. Because I think she had already died, like, if I remember correctly, because, like, I can't remember. I think Harry was with her when she died, right? I think she was already dead by the time, like, I don't think, like, there was any, like, she was still holding on when it, I don't remember all the details around that. So maybe, but whatever the case may be, it's like, no one should have to die alone. Maybe, like, I'm sure Harry's kind of instilled that in her, because, like I said, I think he was with Eleanor when she died. I don't remember, did he get called to the crime scene? I actually don't remember. I'm fairly certain he was hanging out with her when she got, but maybe I'm, like you said, misremembering, because that was a couple seasons ago when Eleanor died, but still. But maybe that had some part to play in why Vasquez ends up giving Maddie the car. It's like, oh no, you go ahead and drive. Hurry up before I change my mind. So that dynamic is continuing to grow and develop. But on the Maddie front too, it's interesting how that ties into the Chandler stuff, because Bosch didn't want Maddie mixed up in the SIS case of what Chandler had planned out. And that's because Harry knows what that'll do. For one, it's a clusterfuck of a situation, because it's cops involved and it's going to, like, dirty up some stuff. And if she gets used as testimony or has some part to play in all of this, like, it's going to make her look, you know, that blue veil's going to close in and she's going to be kind of outed, especially considering she's a boot and everything in her career. So Harry wants Chandler not to, like, get Maddie involved at all. Even to the point Chandler talks to Maddie, and it's like, right, what I'm going to do, because she talked to Morrison and she showed him the footage of, like, yes, Cosgrove planted that gun. It was in the trunk. You and me have both heard the same recording of from Nicole's mom about it. So Cosgrove planted that gun because Maddie and Vasquez were getting taped, so their cameras were facing the other way, but using all the body camera footage, it's like him leaning in, him walking over, and it's like, right, plus the recording saying, like, no, after Paulina was shot, which we haven't gotten an update on Paulina in a couple episodes, so I think the last time they talked about her, she was doing better, but yeah, it's like after Paulina got shot, he put the gun in the trunk, and so we know that from the conversation Nicole had with her mom. And so Morrison's like, well, what do you want me to do? She's like, I want you to do the right thing. Like, you know, you can see what this is. And so Morrison does help in the end. He's just like, promise me that you're not going to just do this for money, that you're going to force change in the department. And Chandler's like, I am representing her 7-year-old son, so I got to do what's best for him. He's like, I hope I don't come to regret this. She's like, as do I. So that's where things kind of stand on that front. But the conversation with Maddie was interesting, because once again, she's never been, yes, Harry had his negative run-ins with Chandler, but Maddie had a certain outlook when it came to Chandler, because, like, she always admired her and then interned for her and worked for her. So Maddie's never been on the opposite end of Chandler. Now that she's a cop, she kind of has a different view on her, just like Harry kind of did. So now it's like, yeah, that she was, the moment that element kind of got mixed into it because of this whole Sharp and Nicole situation, I knew that. I talked about it at the time. I was like, yeah, Maddie and Chandler are going to be on opposite sides during this, and that's going to be interesting. And so Maddie's like, right, you're going to be destroying careers. And she's like, that's not what I want. I want to get justice. And it's like, and Maddie's even saying, like, right, don't you care about me? She's like, yeah, I care about you, but that I'm trying to get justice. Isn't that what you want too? And Maddie, you know, it is that complicated thing of, like, right, doing this, you will be destroying careers, but it is also about exposing, because people's body cam footage and people potentially having to testify and stuff is going to like complicate things. You're going to like dirty someone's name. Like other cops are going to like, oh, you were used to take down another cop. Like no matter what the circumstances are, that blue veil is going to come like form a circle, that blue wall, and it's going to be an issue. So especially for someone like Maddie, before her career has even had an opportunity to rise, her star has an opportunity to rise, you're going to fizzle it out. So, and Bosch kind of gets on her Chandler about it near the end of the episode too, and I'm like, she's trying to do her best. She's like, at best, I will keep her body cam footage. All I need her to do is be on the stand for like 2 minutes to confirm. And it's like, Bosch is like, that's still putting her in the middle of this. It's like, it's still, because the thing is, Chandler's just trying to do the right thing, but it's like, that's what everyone wants. But once again, Bosch is trying to look out for Maddie because he, which I love. And once again, I think it's so sweet when Maddie's like, yo, like, what's up with your phone? He's like, sorry, I had to deal with something. She's like, after like the day she got to drive the car and everything, but I think seeing that guy die and just everything that she's done recently and been a part of as a boot, it made her go like, right, I'm finally seeing things kind of for what they are, like how crazy the world is. And she's like, I'm scared that if I'm not able to talk to you, with everything that goes on, I'm now seeing, which Bosch is like, I understand. She's like, no, I get it. You understand better than anyone else because he's been in this situation before. And like I brought it up previously, I love the inverse of it where she's like, right, just call me to let me know you're okay. Like always, I need to always be able to get in contact with you, not only for my sake, but for your sake as well, because you want to know that I'm okay, so we have to look after each other in this regard of like, right, you want to know I'm okay, so we always pick up. And he's like, always. And I'm like, I think that's such a beautiful and cute thing because it's like, once again, the conversation, they've literally had this before, but it's the inverse. Because she always used to worry about him as a cop, and he used to worry about her. So they've had this dynamic, and now just the roles have been switched a little with her now being the cop. So I thought that was so beautiful and adorable. And I love their dynamic, and I love their relationship. So I thought that was neat. The closing to this whole Viviana thing I thought was so dope. I was kind of scared. I was like, oh, is something going to happen? It's like, right, Crichton's not going to come after them. Philip might still try and make some moves because Chandler has made it public. Obviously, she made sure not to include Viviana's name or her son's name because I don't want to drag them into it. But I was scared something was going to happen last minute, but it doesn't seem like, now that the assassin's been removed from the board, I don't think but it still could be an issue in the future. But Viviana thanks Harry because he's like, oh, nothing much. He doesn't think much of it. It's like, no, you went way above and beyond for Whitney Vance, and I'm sure he would appreciate it if he was alive. Once again, sad that he never got the opportunity to never know the truth about his son until Harry brought it up, but also never got to meet his granddaughter and his grandson. I mean, granddaughter and great-grandson. So, but yeah, it's nice to also see her tight with Olivia, and it's like, yeah, that's our aunt, so it's actually pretty dope that, it's like, this family is able to, it brought them together. This tragedy and these complicated circumstances brought this family together, and I thought that was beautiful. And Viviana's putting on her art show, and she's saying like, right, anything here you want, Harry, you can take up on it, and like offer to Chandler as well. So I thought that was beautiful resolution to it all. That everything's kind of ends up okay, but they could still leave that open-ended enough where like that could definitely be an issue in the future or not. Then there's a whole situation with Maddie. I was kind of like, I was like, we got, like, I think at that point in the episode, it was like, there's 9 minutes left and Maddie's in her apartment. I was like, oh God, please. I was like on edge, and you see the mask. I was like, no! I was like, dude, I was scared. I was like, because you don't know how that's going to play out, what the end result of that is going to be. Because actually, I thought that was going to happen sooner in the episode, because when Maddie put her gun on her table, and then also Chandler came, but Chandler was at the door, I was scared because I was like, that guy wouldn't come to visit Maddie, that Kurt dude, which the actor who plays him is Will Chase. I was like, why do I recognize you? He was in Time After Time. I was like, right. I was like, when I saw that he was in Time After Time, I was like, right, that's what I think that's the thing I know him from. But regardless, he's been in other things, but I think that's the thing I know him definitely from. But when, like I said, when Chandler showed up first, I was like, he wouldn't go through the front door because it'd probably be pretty weird of him being like, oh, Maddie, I know, yeah, like, so how did he must have done research on her, or at the very least, he must have been tracking her, to be able to know exactly where she lives. Because once again, we still haven't put together how he's picking his victims. And once again, it's got to be that Kurt guy for him to go after Maddie now, too. Because I figured he was going to do something because she's getting too close and she's the cop he's interacted with, so he's getting scared. Harry kind of had this uneasy feeling because it's like, yo, we literally had a conversation about always picking up, and the moment he gets to Maddie's place, he can't find it. Because I thought, I was like, oh, God, please don't tell me. Like, they're not going to kill Maddie. They went through the trouble of, like, bringing her into the show and also making her a cop now. There's, like, no way they're going to do that. And then, but the other side of my heart said, kind of like, you don't think they're going to, I hope not. I hope he doesn't, like, you know, like I was scared. I was like, is Harry going to find her, like, hurt, you know, by this guy? I was thinking, like, maybe the reason why she wasn't answering is because things popped off and luckily she was able to, like, shoot him or something like that. So I thought that might be the end result, but it seems like he kidnapped her. So, and Harry sees the cut screen, and that's where we ended off. I was like, that's a wild season. Because usually with these, and maybe that's something they're going to be doing differently with Bosch Legacy in comparison to Bosch, that yeah, there'll be carryover storylines, but it's never cliffhangers like this. Not to my right, because everything's usually tightly, not like, you know, in a tight little bow, but then, like, obviously, there's always going to be storylines that carry over. Like I said, the Viviana, like Whitney Vance thing, could still carry over and not be 100% resolved. Obviously, this luchador masked rapist is going to be a continued through line because of the whole Maddie thing. I think we're going to get maybe a little bit of carryover with the whole Sharp and Nicole Davis thing. So, but everything else, like, things are mainly resolved, but some of those through lines could still continue into season 2, which the show was renewed for a second season even before the season 1 started premiering. So, glad to already know, so it's good to know that that was already set in motion. They were probably, you know, which early, like, the earlier something gets renewed, the quicker they can probably, like, get started, like, pre-production and stuff wise. But yeah, wasn't expecting quite this season finale, and especially with the Maddie thing, so that took me by surprise. So I'm very excited to see where season 2 takes us, what cases, what the overarching case is going to be next season, and, you know, hopefully, I think everything's going to work out for Maddie, but we don't know what the end result might be, because it might not be like like you know, she could be held hostage, that she could do something to her, could torture her. Like, you don't know, and what the after effects of that are going to be. So it's going to be interesting to see where the next season takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.